Hi guys, and welcome back to OG Cars, and in today's video you join us for a nice exciting one that I've definitely been looking forward to showing you guys. You join us in a nice frosty chilly Wales. I think it is actually starting to snow, so we'll try and get this one done fairly quickly, otherwise we're going to be stuck under a few inches of snow. But basically in this video we are looking at a car that moulded my entire car history, one that I'm really excited to show you because it introduced me to Fiats, introduced me to Pandas, and obviously that's where our life is basically just gone and become. This, without any further ado, is my 1993 Fiat Panda Fizz, affectionately named Pandino. Okay, so Pandino was probably the first ever car video we actually did as almost like a review. It's not really a review, it's just, we've never really done reviews, it's just us showing what we have and what we do. I think it was the first video we actually did on that on OG Cars. It wasn't called OG Cars back then, I think it was still FDNY 21. And G and I just had this random idea one weekend where we thought, let's just film this car. And I think, very sorry to Pandino, that was probably one of the only videos it featured in. I mean, it was obviously a full feature and it was a good one, and it did quite well, and obviously morphed the channel, and obviously the car itself has morphed me. But I feel bad because I haven't really featured it much since, and I wanted to do this video to show you it. So this was my first ever car. I bought it in 2016. I was 17, I just turned 17 in May of 2016, and I was looking for a different retro / classic first car. Everyone at college had got a Renault Clio, they got an MG ZR. I was on a motorsport engineering course, so we wanted something a bit different, a little bit interesting, you know, K11 Micro with the pre-facelift, stuff like that. People wanted Saxos and stuff but just couldn't afford it, but you know, they were getting those cars, but I wanted something a little bit different. I wanted something a little bit retro as well, so I was looking at all sorts of stuff. I wanted something classic to start with, looking at 60s, 70s. My dad steered me towards sort of 80s, 90s, maybe get something fuel injected, and that's when Pandino came along in Bristol, a fuel injected, so semi-late facelift Fiat Panda, which I went to see and fell in love with and ended up buying, and here we are today. So Pandino is a 1993 Fiat Panda Fizz. The name Pandino came from the previous owner, and to be honest, it's quite a common name for a classic Panda, or even a modern Panda, but it had to stay when the previous owner gave me that name. I had to keep that name, so that is the name it is kept. But a 1993 Fiat Panda Fizz, what does that get you? Basically, in 1992, they did a facelift, and you got injection, you had 1 litre engines only, you had 5-speed only from that point. So this is a 5-speed, 1 litre fuel injected car with the wasted spark system. It's got a catalytic converter on it, which probably doesn't do much anyway, but yeah, it's there. And interior wise is probably one of the only things the Fizz actually gets you. You get the grey belts, and you get these grey back seats with the really cool front pattern. You just get grey door cards and the grey front dash pouch, and you do get a side stripe, which I don't have. I've put a blue pinstripe on here because I wanted to change it up a little bit, but this car didn't come with its original graphics, which I would really like to put on at some point. But basically it would have had a lower line blue pinstripe with a Fizz sort of sticker on the back of the rear quarters and on the boot lid as well, with 3 little Fizz symbols around it. I'll overlay a picture just so you can see what that should look like, and obviously at some point I hope this car does look like again. But ultimately this is an original Fizz, and I would like to put the stickers on, but yeah, this is it for now. So the Fizz itself is just a special edition, and they were churning them out at this point, like the Parade, the Dance, and all sorts of other ones. But yeah, basically the Fizz, the brochure just had a picture of it in front of a nightclub that said Fizz on it, and I can't remember if it was I think it was the white one that was on the front of that particular brochure, but they basically did a white, green and red, this being the red with the grey interior. The white and the green had a green Fizz interior with green belts, which I absolutely love, and I wish they did red belts in this. I did buy a set of Cinquecento Sporting red belts, which I was meant to put in this to make it my own. Never did it. Still got them in the garage somewhere. So maybe I'll still do that at some point to make it my own and make it really cool. The green Fizz interior though is absolutely lovely, and I love it so much I put it in Jurassic Panda, so I'll overlay a quick picture of that now. But yeah, the Fizz, ultimately not the most special edition in the world. Yes, it's just some stickers in the interior, but I do love that it just makes it a little bit different. To be fair, this is not quite the original Fizz that it used to be when it came to me. I have done a few changes since. Obviously, being my first car, I wanted to do something a little bit different. Ended up buying another Fiat Panda, which was a rusty wreck, and parting it out and putting some lovely Uno Turbo wheels on here from it. Which, yeah, they're early Mark 1 Uno Turbo wheels, and they're still sort of like, you know, paying homage to the original wheel trim style that came on this car, but they're done up really nicely in a white painted colour, which I did with Vernon at Limited Editions Unlimited. So big thanks to him for that, which I did on Work Experience way back when, 2017 probably somewhere. So yeah, the wheels certainly set it off. It's got rear mud flaps, which were quite a hard find. They're original Fiat line accessory ones, which I just had to have. I've done press plates, which looking back on, I kind of hate now. I like a nice original dealer plate, so I may just go back to doing that at some point. Press plates, I don't know if they're still all the rage, but they were all the rage at the time with all the college kids anyway. So I did that. I put clear indicator lenses on with like these blue iridescent bulbs which flash orange, which I managed to get from Halfords. I don't think they do them anymore, but they're still working, so I'll run them. Again, it looks a little bit different, so I like that. I managed to find a Fiat Panda CLX bonnet vent, so I put that on here as well. Interior wise, I think I've done nothing at all. It's just the original. The horn push says Mammut on it, which I think is a rock climbing brand thing, which is literally just stuck over the original Fiat badge, and again the previous owner did that, so I just left it in there. Exterior wise, I can't actually think of anything else. G, what would you say?
The front grille.
Yes, possibly the biggest change actually at this point. I did it a lot later though than some of these other changes, is I changed the front grille. I had a broken one from a Fiat Panda CLX that I bought in Swindon that had been completely vandalised, and I did it all up, put a new grille on it, and I had this old grille in the garage. I just cut the centre out of it, and I thought, if I paint this and mesh in a nice black mesh, then it would look cool. So I did that, and I put it on the front. I think I painted up the badge, and this is what it is. People certainly think it's interesting. Again, it's a bit different, so I like it. It's not too much different. It's sort of, what's the word when you say something plus? OEM plus. I think it's sort of an OEM plus idea. You've still got Fiat wheels, you've still got an original grille design, you've still got original mud flaps. Yeah, I've just tried to keep it quite nice and subtle, and that's what I like about it. It's just, you know, not too out there, but still really cool, retro, and my own. Okay guys, so it's 2025 now, so I've had this car for 8 and a bit years. It's been with me throughout my entire car history. This is my first car, and I've never sold it and never got rid of it, but admittedly I have parted up for a long time. For the first few years I did loads of shows in this car, and you know, I had a few other cars here and there, but admittedly not as many as I've had in the last few years. And this took the back burner. It just got sat on the back burner, it got parked at my grandparents' house, and I felt very bad for it. It was parked with a cover on just outside with Edna for a long time. Edna eventually got moved, is now in a garage. Pandino just stayed there, did move to the front instead of around the back, and again just got stuck under a cover. The cover ripped. It had probably been about 3 years or 4 years that it had been at my nan's house, and I thought, you know what, it's time that this car comes back. The very last MOT that it had, I think, was literally to go to 1 or 2 shows, which Andy drove it for, so I didn't even really use it. So I felt like it was time now to actually get it back. Now that we've got Penny as our main daily shared, when G's using Penny, I thought I need a car to use. I've been using Char and 1 or 2 other things, but I thought, let's get Pandino back and use it for myself. So we went down to my nan's house, just my dad and I, a few weeks ago for a recce mission, and we put a battery on it, checked the fluid levels, did nothing else, and here is what happened. Okay, so the car started straight up. I was very impressed. It's been a few years, right? It's not started at all in a few years since that last MOT, way before it lapsed as well. So yeah, I was very impressed, and I thought, you know what, let's have a quick look around. So I noticed that the rear springs were snapped, the rear shocks weren't looking the best, the rear axle needed a bit of painting up, the rear exhaust had fallen off when Andy drove it back last time, so I thought, right, it's going to need some new parts. The trailing arms, the MOT tester Jamie had mentioned that I should probably do them for the next MOT, so I ordered all of these parts. The temp gauge stopped working as well, so I ordered one of those. So I ended up fitting all of these parts a couple of weeks later on our next mission. So myself and Dad, big thanks to my dad for helping me, fitted new rear suspension, new rear exhaust, a new temp sensor, which didn't fix the issue anyway, although it fixed itself after a couple of hours of driving. And we thought, you know what, let's just stick it straight in for the MOT the next day. So Jamie MOT'd it for me, and the only advisory that this car had was perishing on the 4 tyres, which obviously have just been sat out for a few years. They do hold there, they're absolutely fine. They're not perished accords, they are perished on the edges, so I may end up getting them done at some point, or maybe even changing up the wheel design at some point. But I was very impressed, very happy, but it basically just ran and gone for an MOT with very minimal work, not costing a lot of money at all. Okay, so what's this car done since then? Well, literally a couple of days later, it was parked with my parents. You know, I was there anyway, getting the car ready and doing some other bits there. I thought, you know what, let's tie it in with a trip an hour or two up to go and pick up a Fiat 126 engine and then drive it back down to Cardiff. So that's what we did. We picked up a very cool 650cc engine, which has had some spicy tuning done to it. There's a quick picture of it in the back of the car. And yeah, we literally just picked it up. It came down absolutely fine, no faults at all. Did that driving with no issues whatsoever. So big thanks to Pandino for looking after me. As always, it's never actually let me down. I have done an alternator on it back like the first year I had it, but other than that, it genuinely has never broke down. It's never left me stranded. So big thanks to Pandino for, again, looking after me always. Now previously I've done some various shows with this car, because obviously it was my daily and I went everywhere in it. So this is the car that I would take to Castle Combe, Auto Italia, Panda Camp, all of the other shows, and it's also the car where I went to a nice little Panda UK meet at Chew Valley and met Georgina for the very first time. And well, if I didn't go to that meet in this car, then G and I never would have happened. So this car's made history. So in my last video, you may have noticed that I mentioned I myself had over 60 cars just in my own side of the collection, and I put this car in the top 3. So that says how highly I think of this car. Obviously it's done so much for me and it's led on to so many other things. It's just the car that I'm always going to love and I can't get rid of, at least not for now. I can't even think of, like, yeah, I couldn't even fathom selling it right now. Maybe when I'm old and grey, but even then it'll probably just sit in the garage and look pretty. So that's going to about wrap it up for this video, guys. I do, as I say, absolutely love this car and I wanted to reintroduce it back to you all. So I hope you love Pandino as much as I do. If you've got any questions, please let us know in the comments. Any other ideas, please let us know. But for now, thanks very much for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and we shall see you all in the next one.